Hey everybody. Okay, I normally don't like doing the videos where I'm in front of the camera. It's late. It is 12:30 in the morning. I'm doing this now. I'm getting ready to go to bed. And I was going to type it at first, and I just really didn't feel like typing it. And as late as it is, I didn't think anybody wanted to see my really junky desk. So, and plus I want to go to sleep because I got to get up early in the morning. So, there I go rambling. Okay, so I wanted to share this real quick. I've done a lot of posting these past couple of days. It was difficult. It was really difficult, but I got it out. And I did some posting this morning, and in one of the posts I did, I don't know if it was yesterday or today, I had referenced the fact that those who are teachers, those who are in positions of authority have a higher accountability now, and that's why I'm here now. That's found in James chapter 3 verse 1, and there it says that not many of us should become teachers because those who are teachers will receive a heavier judgment. So I don't know why I was getting myself together for tomorrow, because everybody knows on Saturday mornings I'm usually out at the flea market, and so I was getting myself together for that. And all of a sudden, all of this comes back to my mind. Well, actually, what came back to my mind was a study that I did earlier that I don't think that I posted on it, but it was just really amazing. And like when I do these studies and I find out amazing information, like for instance, a study I did a while ago, and I posted it on YouTube and then on Facebook, and it was when I had did some research about the Samaritans and who they were, and I'm still getting comments on that. Oh my gosh. So anyway, so here's something that's new, and I'm gonna consider posting this on YouTube so that everybody could see it, like a part 2 to the Samaritan thing, and it has a lot to do with the things that I've been fussing about. Well, I don't want to say fussing, and about how everybody really should not be teachers or in these positions of authority. For those who are in positions of authority, really examine yourselves because of the accountability. But anyway, so here's the deal. Here's something that I found that was really amazing. So I don't know how it was that I ended up in the book of Hosea. Hosea is a minor prophet, and I'm speaking this not as if I'm speaking to people who know already, because some just don't know. So I want to try to make this as plain and easy to follow as possible. I honestly don't know how I ended up early this morning looking at the book of Hosea, but I was there. And again, Hosea is one of the minor prophets. You will find his book, if you know where like Psalm is, Psalm in the middle of the Bible, and then from Psalm you have the wisdom books, Proverbs and Song of Solomon, Ecclesiastes, and then you start getting the prophetic books. Now you have your major prophetic books. That's because, and they're called major because of how big the books are. So you have Isaiah, Jeremiah. Now there's a book that's stuck in there after Jeremiah. It's called Lamentations, and we skip over that for a minute. So there's Isaiah, Jeremiah, there's Ezekiel, and then there's Daniel. So after Daniel, you have all these minor prophets, and they're minor prophets because their books are really small in comparison to the major prophets. So today, again, I was somehow in the book of Hosea, and I was looking at this one verse. have no idea how I got. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm bumbling because I'm trying to figure out how it was early this morning that I got there. I don't know how I got there, but Hosea, I was in chapter 10. I want to share this with you because what I got to show you is so amazing, especially because of how it fits with the comments that I've made most recently about leadership. And again, James 3:1, not everyone should be teachers because there's a higher accountability. And I was addressing the accountability of leaders. Our leaders are coming under attack. Our leaders are coming under a very heavy attack. And we know where it's from, but anyway. So Hosea 10:10, it says, when it is my craving, I shall also discipline them. And against them, peoples will certainly be gathered when there is a harnessing of them to their two errors. I'm going to read that again. It says, this is Hosea chapter 10, verse 10. It says, should I go up to verse 9? Okay, so here in the background of the story is Israel. The tribe of Israel is being discussed. So I'm going to just read verse 10. When it is my craving, I shall also discipline them. And against them, peoples will certainly be gathered when there is a harnessing of them to their two errors. Again, it was talking about Israel and the tribe of Israel. We know that these were God's people. For those who saw the first video that I did about who was the Samaritans, you would know that the Samaritans, this was the tribe of Israel. And so me and my nosy self, I wanted to know, what do you mean harnessing them to their two errors? What two errors? What happened? And so it took me back to 1 Kings. 1 Kings actually is chapters 12, 13. It starts at chapter 11. It's chapter 11, 12, 13, and 14 where you'll find all this. But I'm about to tell you what these sins were and how it relates to what I have been posting these past couple of days. So, in chapter 11, to give you, again, a background, we all know King David, right? King David took the place of King Saul, and we know that King David, he was a womanizer. Spit it out, girl. He messed up with Bathsheba. Bathsheba was a married woman, and King David had some men out fighting the war, and Bathsheba's husband, Uriah, was one of the ones that was out fighting the war. And this one day, Bathsheba was bathing herself out in the open. However they did it back then. That was how they did it back then, y'all. I guess liken it to being at the beach or however, I don't know. But King David noticed her and called her in and had relations with her and got her pregnant. So he called for her husband to come back from being in war, hoping that her husband would go and sleep with her, and then it could be said that he got her pregnant. But of course the husband didn't do that. He refused because he felt like, his brethren is out battling, and who is he that he should get that privilege to come back and spend time with his wife? So he wouldn't do that. I'm paraphrasing. So King David had him killed so that he could marry Bathsheba, and it could be covered up about the baby and covered up about the fact that he did what he did. So anyway, the baby was killed by God. Punishment. And she ended up having another child, which was Solomon. of all the kids that King David had, Solomon became the next king of Israel. And again, David was king over all 12 of the tribes. To know about the 12 tribes, you go back to, either you go back and watch that first video I did about the Samaritans, or you go back to Genesis, which is much easier, and learn about the 12 tribes and who they were. But David was king over the 12 tribes. Solomon was king over the 12 tribes. But near the end of his reign, he started doing some stuff that God didn't approve of. He started marrying women from other nations, and he fell into worshiping their gods. And so it was stated that the discipline on that was that, I guess, the tribes was going to be broken up. I'm thinking that would be 1 Kings chapter 9 or 10 or something. So anyway, King Solomon had a son named Rehoboam. And Rehoboam had, when he took over, he had, instead of him listening to the wise men who were still alive from his daddy's reign, he listened to his friends. This is chapter 10, no doubt, of 1 Kings. He listened to his friends, and or chapter 11, I don't know. He listened to his friends, and he raised the taxes, and the people got mad, and they decided, we're not following you. And as a matter of fact, there's also, before I even go any further with that, I want to introduce to you Jeroboam. Now, again, if you remember the video that I did, if you saw it, it's on YouTube, about the Samaritans. It's entitled, Who Was the Samaritans? If you saw it and you remember, Jeroboam was the one who God had chose to reign as king over the 10 tribes, because the tribes, they broke up. Well, what I learned today is, again, I have no idea why I was taken back to that, but back when Solomon was doing his dirt and the Israelites was getting mad, Jeroboam was one of those ones who had gotten upset, and he rose up against the king. He began to speak out about this and about the different things that King Solomon was doing. And in the process of him speaking out, God chose him to be that next king over the 10 tribes, because he was getting ready, God was getting ready to discipline Solomon and for what he was doing. And so that fire, and I don't know, maybe I fell into reading all of that because of that burning fire that was inside of me to speak out about a lot of the things that the leadership, that is happening with the leadership, this attack that they are under and that they're falling to. And I think my biggest issue is not so much with the leadership that has fallen, because they were being attacked. They had fallen. My biggest issue was with the leaders, the other leaders who was not covering their brethren, the other leaders who are in these positions of authority, who was not speaking out to their brother and correcting them in love and trying to help them and readjust them, which is the purpose of having these different gifts, apostles and prophets and evangelizers and shepherds. And it said in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7, that they were given for the purpose of readjusting the holy ones. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but that's 1 Corinthians 12, 7. So anyway, going back to the story, going back to because I got to show you. So Jeroboam was called, and you see him in 1 Kings chapter 11, and that's where you also see Rehoboam, and you see what he did and how he ignored the counsel of the older men to listen to his knucklehead friends who didn't know no better. And he ended up losing, as was prophesied, the control that I don't know if the control is the right word, but it's the word I'm going to use. It's probably not the right word, but it's the word I'm going to use. He lost control or authority or however leadership. He lost his position over the entire 12 tribes. And he maintained his kingship over the two of the tribes, which was Judah and Benjamin. But the other 10, they ended up choosing Jeroboam. So it's Rehoboam and Jeroboam. Jeroboam was from the tribe of Ephraim, which is Joseph. Joseph was one of the original 12, but again, go back to Genesis for this. He was one of the original 12, and he went to Egypt, or got sent to Egypt, got shipped off to Egypt, got sold to Egypt because his jealous brothers. But he ended up having 2 children, Ephraim and Manasseh. And so by this time, when you hear of Ephraim or Manasseh as one of the 12, they took the place of Joseph and Levi. Joseph wasn't counted; his sons was counted, and Levi, we know they served for the priesthood, with the priesthood. So these 2 sons stood in their place. We'll talk more on that later. So anyway, Jeroboam's from the tribe of Ephraim, and he is now king over the 10 tribes of Israel. Rehoboam, who's being disciplined, they're being disciplined because his daddy started it when he stopped serving God and started following after these following the false worship practices of his wives. They really upset God with that. God don't play when it comes to stuff like that. He doesn't play when it comes to stuff like that. So anyway, God told Jeroboam, he said, he clearly let Jeroboam know. Let me show you. I got my little notes. I be writing stuff down. Oh my gosh, I have papers full of notes. That's why my desk is so junky, because I have like notes all over the place. But I got to show you this. So it's 1 Kings chapter 11. I'm not going to read all of these verses, but I want to show you, because the reason I want to show you this is because if you understand what Jeroboam was told and what happened to him, you'll begin to see what was going on in his mindset, which caused him to do 2 things that really, really angered God. And those 2 things is affecting us still to this day. So let me show you. 1 Kings chapter 11. 1 Kings chapter 11. And in my notes, I have verse 26 through 39. I don't want to read all that. I just want to read. Okay, I'm going to start at verse 31. This is when Jeroboam is being told that he is going to be given leadership over the 10 tribes of Israel. So this is one of the prophets talking to him, Ahijah. I don't know much about Ahijah. I don't know much about him yet. But okay, so this is 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 31. It says, and he went on to say to Jeroboam, so this is Ahijah talking to Jeroboam. Ahijah had on this jacket, right? And he took it off and ripped it into 12 pieces. So after he did that, he's now talking to Jeroboam, and he says, take for yourself 10 pieces, for this is what Jehovah the God of Israel has said. Here I am ripping the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and I shall certainly give you 10 tribes. And the 1 tribe is what will continue his for the sake of my servant David. See, Solomon was the one that messed up. But because of his promise, God's promise to David, because of his love for David, he wasn't completely ripping Solomon of the wealth and authority that he had. He was disciplining him. So he says, this is verse 32, and the one tribe is what will continue his for the sake of my servant David, and for the sake of Jerusalem, the city that I have chosen out of all of the tribes of Israel. The reason why is that they have left me. So God is telling in verse 33 why he's doing this. He said the reason why is that they have left me and begun to bow down to Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, the goddess to Shemosh, the god of Moab, and to Milcom, the god of the sons of Ammon. Okay, so I can't tell you nothing about any of those idols that Solomon began worshiping. I probably did a study on them a while ago, but it'll come back. It'll come back when it comes time for me to like really look into all of that. It'll come back and I share it, of course. So I'm gonna continue. Verse 33. It says, "And they have not walked in my ways by doing what is right in my eyes, and my statutes and my judicial decisions, like David his father." So God is angry. He's angry. Verse 34. It says, "But I shall not take the entire kingdom out of his hand, because a chieftain I shall set him for all the days of his life, for the sake of David my servant, whom I chose, because he kept my commandments and my statutes. And I shall certainly take the kingship out of the hand of his son, and give it to you, even 10 tribes." So this is Jeroboam. God is saying, you know, he's getting ready to discipline Solomon, and he's saying to him that I'm going to give you 10 tribes. I'm gonna leave him with 2, and he had to leave 2 there, not just because of his promise to David or his love for David, but if you remember that the Davidic line was who Jesus was to come through. So, but again, we're looking at verse number 34. It says, "But I shall not take the entire kingdom out of his hand, because a chieftain I shall set him for all the days of his life, for the sake of David my servant, whom I chose, because he kept my commandments and my statutes." Verse 35. And this is 1 Kings chapter 11. It says, "And I shall certainly take the kingship out of the hand of his son, and give it to you, even 10 tribes." He's talking to Jeroboam. Jeroboam is getting ready to get something he didn't have before. He's getting ready to get some authority. Authority divinely given to him by God. Verse 36, it says, "And to his son," we're talking about Rehoboam, "and to his son I shall give 1 tribe, in order that David my servant may continue having a lamp always before me in Jerusalem, the city that I have chosen for myself to put my name there. And you are the one that I shall take, and you will indeed reign over all that your soul craves, and you will certainly become king over Israel. And it must occur that if," now here we go. God is setting his requirements now. This is verse number 38. Pay attention. "And it must occur that if you obey all that I shall command you, and you do walk in my ways and actually do what is right in my eyes by keeping my statutes and my commandments, just as David my servant did." He didn't say he had to be perfect. We know David wasn't perfect, but David was a man after God's own heart. David repented whenever he did something that he wasn't supposed to do. He sought the Lord. It says here, "I will prove to be with you, and I will build you a lasting house, just as I have built for David, and I will give you Israel, and I shall humiliate the offspring of David on account of this only." Catch this part. only, not always. So Jeroboam was being given this kingship. God was getting ready to discipline. And that was chapter 11. God was getting ready to discipline David's son Solomon and Rehoboam. And so this was a huge deal. This was a huge responsibility. A huge deal. A huge blessing. But let me tell you what Jeroboam did. And again, not Jeremiah. So if I say Jeremiah, not Jeremiah, Jeroboam. Let me tell you what he did. Because remember in verse, in not Hebrews. Okay, I'm getting tired. What time is it? I got to hurry up because I go to sleep. Hosea. In Hosea, it talked about Israel committing 2 errors. So let me tell you what Jeroboam did. God was specific to Jeroboam. He let Jeroboam know, I'm getting ready to discipline them. He let Jeroboam know why. He let Jeroboam know that he was going to get 10 of the tribes of Israel of the 12, and God was going to let Solomon let them keep 2. Jeroboam, the very last thing that God said to him, after God talked about how he was going to discipline the sons of David, he said, but not always. Not always. Let me tell you what Jeroboam did. Let me tell you what these 2 sins was. First of all, God was clear that Jerusalem was the chosen place where everybody was supposed to go and worship. Everybody, all of the tribes made this regular trek to Jerusalem. Everybody. Let me tell you what Jeroboam did. In the 12th chapter, let me tell you, see, Jeroboam knew. He knew that God was not going to always or stay mad at Rehoboam. He had to correct them. That correction was necessary because of the things that they were doing that they were not supposed to do. Jeroboam got big in the head. He started liking the fact that he was king. He started liking the fact that he had this authority. He got big in the head. Let me tell you what he did. This is the first sin. It's found in 1 Kings chapter 12. I encourage you to read it. I'm not about to go and read it. The first thing Jeroboam did was he told the people, he set up 2 different places of worship that was not Jerusalem. And it was close by. I can't remember where he set them up. Again, it's in 1 Kings chapter 12, the actual 2 places. But he did it because he said, he did it because he didn't want the people to go back to Jerusalem to worship where they were supposed to, and then decide that they were going to return to following the Davidic kingship, Rehoboam was king at the time. And so that was the first thing, because God had already made it clear that Jerusalem was the place that he chose. So here's the lesson behind that. Here's the lesson behind that one. Jeroboam, in his position of leadership, he sinned. He was a leader. He was one that commanded and told people, you go do this, that. He was the leader. Follow the leader. He was the leader. And he sinned. And when he sinned, he caused the people to sin. When he said that you're going to go, because he wanted to make it like closer. Instead of traveling all the way back to Jerusalem, you could either travel here or you could travel there. But that's not what God said. So first and foremost, that was the first sin. Because remember, Hosea 10:10 spoke of 2 sins of Israel that caused God to just turn his back on them. 2 sins. That was the first. They were not going to Jerusalem. And that's why I'm gonna throw this in here for those who saw that first video about Samaria, and who were the Samaritans. That's why the Jews and the Samaritans did not get along. See, the Samaritans, they made up the 10 tribes of Israel. And that's why Jesus said to that Samaritan woman, when he was revealing himself to her, he said to her, we worship what we know. You all don't worship what you, or I don't even want to go look that up. I'm tired. I'm getting tired. But, which was what caused me to go look up about the Samaritans and who they were. So this was it. This was a start of that. The separating of them. Jeroboam did that. He caused them to sin by causing them to not worship the way they were commanded by God to worship. Jeroboam did this. So now you have 10 tribes of Israel no longer following God. They're now following man. Whoa. I'm going to say that again. You have 10 tribes of Israel no longer following God. They're now following man. If they were following God, they would have been worshiping where God chose. Okay, so now, the second sin. And remember, I told you these sins affect all of us today. These very sins affect all of us today. The second sin. Have you ever wondered why there's so many people that are pastors and have you ever wondered? If you look in the book of Leviticus, if you look at the Old Testament period, it was really important that they kept up with their lineage. Back a while ago, before I moved from Virginia, all of a sudden I started getting into this lineage thing. And it was because I was studying lineages and it was just a lot of stuff that was coming up. But one of the things that was coming up was how important it was for the priesthood to know their lineage. Because if they didn't know, if it was not confirmed where their line was, and some of it had got to a point where some of them didn't know, like, who their father's father was. And so for them, even though they were considered to be priests, they weren't able to partake in certain things because that lineage was not known. As a matter of fact, twice in the Bible, we're given Jesus' lineage. It was important. That was something that was very important. Very important. God chose the Levitical